Chevron 1, coded.
For my ally is the Force, and the powerful ally it is. Life creates it, makes it grow.
You failed your purpose. I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Cry hammer, and let's set the tongues of war.
Chevron 2 encoded.
Conan, what is best in life? Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, to hear the lamentation of your women.
It's all in the reflexes.
Well, also said you're heavy into martial arts, Tai Chi and all that, killer stuff. I suppose we have to register you as a lethal weapon.
Chevron 3 encoded.
And somebody ought to belt you in the mouth. But I won't. I won't. The hell I will.
Chevron 4 encoded.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Chevron 5 encoded.
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Chevron 6 encoded.
Not for while you can, monkey boy.
Great Scott.
Back off, man. I'm a scientist.
You shall not pass! I thought I'd die fighting side by side with an elf.
What about side by side with a friend?
A day may come when the courage of men fails, when we forsake our friends and break all bonds of fellowship. But it is not this day.
Chevron 7 is locked.
Howdy and hail, everybody. Welcome back to Saturday Night Drive-In, that one moment in the week where we take a break from all the garbage and sit back and hopefully enjoy something all together. Welcome one and all. Jed, my faithful, I don't have a joke prepared this week. How you doing? Not really.
I'm doing great. I really needed today because I took it so easy. Just slept in till 2 p.m. Actually, I did stay up till 6 a.m, so I feel like it's excusable.
Okay. Yeah.
And then just took it easy watching a phenomenal film and played video games, and then just get hang out with my friend and the people in the chat talking about a good movie.
Dude, I mean, I was up late last night too. I was up till 4. Part of it was because I was stuck on Ballbusters. But I was playing Armored Core at the same time, so I was softening the blow. But I did get a chance to watch this again. Because we had to shuffle the schedule. This was a last minute shuffle of our movie watching, so I had to make sure I got it in. But I did watch it, and oh man, this took me back. Because this is my childhood. Mm-hmm. This is the middle of my childhood, right in the middle, 1990. This is the middle of it. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the first live action adaptation, which came out at the peak of the original cartoon, and at the same time the comics were in there deep into their second version, and the toys were a mass hit. I mean, it was huge. Video games were out everywhere. Everybody loved the Turtles, and I was no different. And it takes me right back. And I'm going to tell my story that I always tell. I've told before, but it is more relevant. Let me say it's more relevant with this stream because we when it came out that week, I went to a sleepover. Bunch of dudes that I knew, a mix of it was mostly I called my summer friends. They were my summer friends. They weren't my school friends. They were the summer friends, the kids you hung out with at the beach, that kind of stuff. So we went to one kid's house. I think it was his birthday even. I don't remember. But we went to see Turtles that night. We all went and saw it. Oh, we were so high with kid energy, adrenaline. After that, we come back.
You took too long of a pause there, mate.
Well, we were high. We were high on kid adrenaline. That's how we were high on sugar and kid adrenaline because we jump around. We get back to the house. We're all jumping around, doing karate kicks. And this is before I had any sort of martial arts training. It's years before I've actually had any sort of actual training, went to do that kind of stuff. So we're all jumping around. We're swinging, doing kicks. I jump up and I do a kick, but then I didn't had my landing set, and I came down, and this, let's just call this my left foot, came down like that on my left foot on the inside between the top of my foot and my ankle.
No, you can't just do that.
No, I broke 3 tiny bones in my foot doing that. I broke my foot the night on the premiere of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because we were jumping around doing karate. Now, the part of this hurt like hell. I wanted to call my mom, but the retarded mother of the kid whose house it was 10 p.m. Like when we did that, she said, "Oh no, your parents are asleep. You can't do that. We're not going to call them. It'll wake them up."
You broke your foot.
I'm a child, so what can I do if the adult in the house is not going to call my mom to come and get me and take me to the hospital? And I spent the night in agony. And in the morning, it even sucked more because the morning there was a Nerf gun fight in the house and outside, and I had to sit there like this, holding a gun, and nobody came around. I had a little handgun over it, and I'm in pain. Then finally, my mom arrives, freaks. She had one of the most livid fits I had ever seen as a kid at that point. Took me right away to the doctor who was the father of a girl in my actual class at school. And then I had a cast on my leg for a good 3 months while it healed. I mean, so
it is completely justifiable parental freak out.
Yeah,
100%.
And bathing, that was the first time I realized, wow, when you hurt yourself, and especially if it's something that can't, because that's back when they had casts that couldn't get wet. I mean, I don't know if they've changed casts now. Back then, you couldn't get the cast wet.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in the bathtub, like with leg hanging out over the edge, wrap it in a trash bag sometimes. It was a nightmare for 3 months, but I got out of school for at least a week. So,
hell yeah.
But yeah, so that's my turtle story. But does it change the fact that I still love this movie? No, it doesn't. It's still a movie that is a part of my childhood, but it is a part of childhood. And we'll get into it as we go forward.
Mm-hmm.
Jed, when I know it's probably not as stupid as my first experience with, but when did you first see Turtles 1990?
I'm not 100% sure. I was definitely at my grandma's house when I was young, maybe 10, 8-ish, somewhere in there. I watched Secret of the Ooze way more than the first one, though. I watched Secret of the Ooze first. I watched that one before watching the original. I watched the third one before I watched the first one, I think, too.
Oh, really? Ouch.
Uh-huh. I know. I was young, so I didn't know how bad that third one was. But yeah, Secret of the Ooze is the one that I remember the most because it's been a long time since I've seen any of them. But
that's arguably the one that has the most cultural relevance. The Secret of the Ooze, because they took it even closer to the cartoon.
Really,
when they went with that one, it got even a little closer and farther away from the comics. But keep going.
Well, so when it comes to Turtles, my only experience with this franchise is with the live action movies, these three and the Michael Bay ones. I never liked the Michael Bay ones. I was like 14 when the first one came out, and even I said, this is garbage. I don't care.
I watched them once each, and I was like, it's all right. And it's not great.
It's very Michael Bay.
It's very Michael Bay, Bay Explosions. I wasn't a fan of the turtle design. I did like Bebop and Rocksteady in the second one.
Yeah.
Because that was kind of cool. But
seeing them for the first time.
Yeah, and it feels like the second one was trying to do a major course correction from the first one. So I appreciated that. But yeah, it's not great. But then again, I will take Bay Explosion Turtles over Mutant Mayhem any day.
Oh, I can understand that completely. But my big takeaway, even as a kid, from the Michael Bay ones to these original ones from the 90s, is how much more real the 90s one felt. Obviously, it's practical effects versus CGI, but they felt like real characters, real people. They were interacting, right? Like, I could believe the 90s were real. Like, those turtles, there was no... whatchamacallit, Valley of Disbelief or whatever. There was none of that. Uncanny Valley, thank you. Yeah. There was none of that for the 90s one. In the
it's all real. There's no CGI in that. It's all puppetry. It's all practical effects.
And it's beautifully done.
And
the technical prowess cannot be ignored when talking about this movie.
Oh yeah, I mean we're gonna talk about the technology of the animatronics in that one, because there are two different actors for each turtle. There's the guy in the suit, one of them being Ernie Reyes Jr., who was in Secret of the Ooze, who actually got to be outside the suit in that one. He was in the Donatello suit. I just saw that on Twitter the other day while we were doing so. Yeah, so apparently, I mean, Ernie Reyes Jr., he's one of the most famous little young dudes who was awesome at karate, had his own little shows, started us off from Surf Ninjas, that kind of stuff. Everybody, he's one of the coolest dudes out there in terms of being good at martial arts for a young kid and for young audiences. But he was in the Donatello suit, and then of course he was the pizza kid in Secret of the Ooze. So he got to be outside, but he was in that, and of course then you had a lot of famous voice actors like Corey Feldman did the voice of Donatello in the first one. That's one of my two Corys. So it's fascinating because you have somebody in the suit, but then you had with the technology of this guys doing the VA work and another dude going like this, doing the mouth work for the animatronic on the face and all the expressions. So it was revolutionary at the time, and it was awesome, and it made it feel real.
Oh, there's at least 5 dudes per turtle just to make any of them feel real and alive. It's impressive.
Yeah. And that's why it worked, and that's why it still holds up because you're watching
100%.
the turtles. Those are outstanding costumes. They look and feel. Even at one point, like last night at the end of the movie, I was noticing after the battle with Shredder, they even had bruises on their skin, taking the time to make sure. Yeah, they were just in a heavy ass battle, and there's battle damage.
It's insane what they were able to accomplish. The scene that I always go back to is right near the end, right before the fight with Shredder, before they climb up the building, but they're in the street. Someone swings at Mikey from behind, and he puts his head in his shell, and then he comes back and he's like, I love being a turtle. As a kid, I would always yell that too. It's like, I wish I was a turtle. And it's because of the animatronics that made my childhood mind say, I wish I was like them, because it felt so real.
And you bring up a great point. And again, I don't want to reference the Abomination, but I'm going to because right now,
that's the whole reason I chose it.
In this present moment, with Mutant Mayhem out there, which it's failing, by the way, it's going to lose money no matter which metric you use.
Hell yeah.
We'll talk about that on the next roundtable. Just the nail in the coffin. Anyway, everybody's going. I love watching the turtles be like teenagers. It's so refreshing. Jed, I watched this. This is the first time I watched the movie in easily over a decade last night. First time in a long time. They seem like pretty teenagery to me in this movie, don't they?
Oh, yeah. Anyone who's saying that about Mutant Mayhem has only ever seen the Michael Bay films. Because the Michael Bay films, they don't act like teenagers. They don't act like people or characters in those ones. But in these original 90s one, you could tell they're children, or at least have a lot of childhood mentalities.
They're completely immature throughout the whole thing, constantly cracking wise, making cheesy jokes, and it's different. I mean, we talked about this in Mayhem, how Leo was simping over fat, ugly April, but they're all simping over hot adult April. It's two different things. Some could say it's the same. No, you're talking about interspecies. No, they're appreciating a beautiful woman in this one. They're not creating a false sense of one of them wants to date a fat, ugly troglodyte. It's to say and having actually the words, she's so beautiful, she's so brave. To actually put that in the dialogue in him. In this one, they're just going, man, she's a babe. Oh man, she's hot. And then when Casey comes in and has an actual romantic thing with her, they're going, yeah, all right, get some of that.
I love their love story. It is so 80s, so 90s, just how much they fight with each other. But I think the actual real justification for the whole thing in Mutant Mayhem is their version of April looks like more of a turtle than anyone who's alive, and so they felt like it wasn't as bestiality or interspecies, so that's why they were so attracted to her. She's like, oh man, she's got that turtle form.
Oh god. But all right, so
that turtle figure.
We're gonna kind of, this adaptation is kind of brilliant at 1990 because, as I said, the cartoon has been going for a year or two now. I believe the original started in 88, 89. It was running. It's already got a couple seasons in. The toy market is saturated with turtle stuff. I had my collection. I loved my turtle toys. So this comes out. Now, here's one of the things. This was one of the first times ever I read the book adaptation of the movie before I watched the movie.
Really?
Pretty good. Yeah, it was pretty good. They left a couple of scenes out. I don't remember what they are anymore because I was a kid. But I read it first and then saw the movie, and I was surprised. Wait a minute, why isn't this scene in here? And I didn't understand that the books are always going to have a little bit more. But it was a good book. It was a good book, and it got me ready for the movie. So I wasn't surprised by the movie. But at the same time, now looking back on it, it's a brilliant combination of the original first cartoon and the second run of the comics, which I had then gotten into after a birthday where I got all those Barnes and Noble's book certificates. I know that was a thing back in the day, those gift certificates for that kind of thing. I know it's weird. And back then they had actual comic books, trade paperbacks in there there was also things manga over here yet. And I wasn't into hardcore into anime yet anyway. And they had the collected volumes, or some of them, of the then Turtle Run. And I got the second one, I got the third one, and I think I had a fourth one. I had them out of order. I didn't have the first one, but I bought them. And I didn't care. I just read them. And this, with the first Act 1 and Act 2, and actually the whole movie is very reminiscent, is drawing from that second run of the comics, with April living in the antique store, how they meet her, the foot after them. It's pulling a lot from that, and they managed to meld it perfectly with the cartoon version of that, because of course in the original one, then they're also wearing universal red headbands. They're not differentiated by their color. But the cartoon one that came out, the cartoon version, that's when they began to get differentiated. Leo blue, Mikey orange, Raph red, Donnie purple. And it just, the second run of the comics was way hardcore. And there were slight differences. I mean, when the attack happens on the antique shop, it's nearly beat for beat in terms of the buildup. Raph has had a fight. He's out there. He gets tossed in a coma, and then the fight ensues. Casey shows up at the last second to help out, and then they escape. Everything's on fire. The only difference is in the comic, Shredder was there, but he isn't there in this one, which makes the difference, because at this point, they're still working on the lore in the movie itself here on telling us that who Shredder is. We haven't seen him yet. We don't know who Oroku Saki is. It's all that goes. But when I saw that at the same time, I thought, hey, I know this. This is cool. It now recognizes me. It's blending it perfectly. And then in the back half of Act 2, where they're at the farm, it's the same events where April is.
Seems like they respected the source material.
No, that's where I'm going with this. Yeah, they respected the current material, which was the cartoon, so the kids could recognize the turtles with the colors and their behavior, because they're a lot more juvenile in the cartoon than they were in the comic. They were a little more hardcore in the comic. But then, of course, for the comic fan, here are the events you recognize. And April doing the narration of how they're all dealing with the loss of Splinter and Raph's coma and recovering.
I've always wondered why Mikey isn't included in that.
I thought about that today, too, and I have no answer. Maybe because Mikey is the only one who didn't have a problem, because he's Mikey and he's carefree.
Yeah. Well, along with that sequence, I gotta say, I burst out laughing today at one of the most serious points of the film.
Oh, really?
Because when she draws, Leonardo, and it cuts to him actually being there on the stool watching Raphael, and it cuts to Raphael in the bathtub. I don't know why I thought it was so fucking funny.
Because he looks drunk, that's why.
Yeah, he's just laying in a bathtub, with his arms hanging out the side, and it's like, what the I get he needs to be on his stomach, but in the bathtub all cockeyed?
Yeah.
It's so weird.
I don't know how the final third act lines up the comic, because I didn't have the next volume of the paperback, Return to New York. But I had one comic from that, and in the original version, Raph goes off on his own first, and the others follow, but then he ends up recruiting a Triceraton. And of course, that's not in this, because they didn't even know. That's way more.
I don't even know what that is.
That basically, Triceratons are interdimensional aliens who are basically Triceratops. They're Triceratops aliens, and that's a whole nother thing. That's deep comic lore, dude, and a little bit from the cartoon. That's way deep in there. But Triceratons didn't even because this movie serves as in my opinion, going back to the whole thing now, it serves as a great origin movie without being an origin movie, if that makes any sense.
Well, we don't need to see anything about their origin beyond what we did. We know they're mutated and that they were trained by Splinter. I think that's all we really need of an origin story. So they popped in at a perfect moment, in my opinion, because it's more important to establish their relationship with April, their relationship with Casey, their conflict with Shredder and the Foot Clan. It established the origin that was necessary for the film. And we could set up in the sequel where the ooze came from. Like, I
Oh,
think
yeah.
they did it perfectly. That would have just bogged down the plot. If this first one had been about the ooze, it would have felt a little unnatural and coincidental that their first real mission into the real world
And
was about their origin. That feels
That's exactly
coincidental.
why I said this, because you bring it up. This is this is the beginning, the first time they're going out there with Splinter's permission. He's not sheltering them. He knows their mission is to go out and see and do justice from the shadows and help out. And I love it that that's our first mission. We're successful, except for Raph losing his side. But it works well. They're not bogging you down, like I said. Every time you get a backstory moment, it's perfect exposition.
And it makes sense.
And it
character
makes sense. And it's Splinter educating somebody. He's educating April about who they are. He then is educating Danny about where he came from and why there may be something wrong with his family, because he's wearing Orokosaki Shredder's symbol on his headband. And that's great. Biggles brings it up. Yeah, the 2001 cartoon was even more heavily influenced by the second run comics until they really jumped over that and went super space and aliens and stuff like that. And it was good. I got bored of it about 2 seasons in, but it was good. And that's everybody's second favorite iteration. A lot, and the people who grew up with that one, they love it because it was hardcore and it was good. And it was done with respect. I didn't like the way they turned Shredder into a Krang in that one, but that's just a choice, and I accept it. Not my thing, though. Something else I noticed earlier, Legatus mentioned the movie that brought rap into the masses. Actually, it was Secret of the Ooze with Go Ninja, Go that did it.
I sang that so much as a kid.
The rap song that they put in the end credits of this one actually pisses me off because whoever the rapper is says, Raphael, he's the leader of the group. No. Leonardo's the leader. Raph is the hothead. Donnie's the genius. Mikey's free-loving and fun-going, carefree. And that is one of my few criticisms of this movie, though. Donnie's the only one that's sort of out of character in this because we don't get Genius Donnie until Secret of the Ooze. That's when we get. That's when I said they Secret of the Ooze went deeper into the cartoon lore and a little bit more comics lore when they brought in Donnie, Genius Donnie. This one, he's just kind of wisecracking Donnie, kind of carrying up the jokes. This movie really gives the most to Raph. Honestly, it gives Raph the most.
Absolutely.
And Leo the second. Because it shows that it respects the lore of how Raph and Leo are always going to butt heads because Leonardo is the leader, but Raph wants to be leader but knows he can't be the leader because he is impulsive and he's aggressive. But I still love it. Because there's still all the respect shown, like you said. And the exposition works when it has to. And there's payoff. Little bits of payoff the whole way. Starting with, in my opinion, when Splinter, when he tries to tell Raph, you need to work with your brothers. Don't try and do these things. Don't try and fight your inner problems by yourself. You're strongest together. And when they have their meditation scene at the farm, which is actually really emotional.
100%.
It really works. And they all come together and we're going to do this as a team. And you show what happens earlier on during the battle in the antique shop. When he gets by surprise, they get their asses handed to them in the antique shop. They
work together a little bit, and those are the few moments where they have the upper hand. Like I think it was Donnie and Mikey who did the whole Wheel of Fortune bit.
Yeah,
they were working together and they wrecked a bunch of dudes.
But they're not in unison. They're not
right. No, there were glimpses of.
And they're out of sync because Raph isn't there because Raph is out for the count. They really are best as a team. But when they come together, when they set the trap in the lair, and then fight them and drive them back to the surface and fight them, they are just kicking all kinds of ass because they're working as a perfect team and they're having so much fun doing it too. That's what I love. It's the third act climactic battle, but they're having fun doing it, and therefore we're having fun with them. They're cracking wise. They're doing jokes. I love being a turtle. They're doing combo attacks. When they're climbing up the building, Donnie pulls one off. Yes, whoa! Grabs on the ladder to make sure it doesn't fall.
Yes, I remember that.
It's payoff that
Mm-hmm.
they are a team. They're the brothers. They're going to work together. They're best for the strongest. And that's and maybe this is me. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. But when they try to fight Shredder, they don't do it as a team, and they fail.
Yeah, 100%.
They can't take him
They've
one-on-one.
gotten pretty cocky at that point. Just like you said, they're cracking wise. They're focusing too much on having fun, and they've just decimated 100 dudes. So they're like, oh, this random spiky dude showed up? Yeah, we'll go one by one. It's no problem.
Yeah.
And so they worked together until their pride drove them apart once again.
And then emotion, because then he taunts them about Splinter.
Mm-hmm.
And each one of them both Leo and Raph do a reckless charge. Raph charges. Leo does a really stupid double katana thrust and gets beat the hell out for that. And then they can't handle him because it's one-on-one. I mean, he's a master. Rokosaki Shredder, he is a master. And they are still students. They're not top of their game yet. But it's subtle payoff, but it's there. And I love it. And it draws you in. And it makes Shredder still one of the greatest antagonists in this franchise, because he is too strong for them. They can't take him, and they never even beat him. We're not going to talk about it second one because we didn't watch that for day, but they don't even really beat him in the second one. They outsmart him and use his own size against him in the second one. They never actually really beat him, and it takes and I love it at the final battle there where it's Splinter who. First of all, again, having Splinter defeat Shredder, that's classic. That is
and they used his anger against him.
That's where I was going.
I love that because I don't think Splinter could have beat Shredder in a one-on-one in this movie. In an actual one, especially because he'd been, tortured.
That's what I was going to say. He's out. He's been out for the count. He's been chained up for days. He's at
exactly and starved probably. Yeah. So the only way he was going to win is if he could force Shredder to make a mistake, and that's what he did.
Yeah.
And this brings up one of my few criticisms of the movie. Like, this movie is so much fun. The plot necessarily isn't all that spectacular.
It's a trimmed down version of the cartoon in the comics. It's very trimmed down.
It's fun, and the character work is pretty strong. But this is a problem that I have with actually all the Turtle stuff I've ever seen. This one does the best to justify it, but even it, I don't think quite does it, is the whole how Splinter learned martial arts. I get how the Turtles did it, but in this one, if he hadn't had the ooze yet, how has he got the coordination to mimic Yoshi's movements?
This is the comic origin. This is the comic origin of Splinter. He was Hamato Yoshi's pet rat, and he watched it. That's comic origin. In the 80s original cartoon, he is Hamato Yoshi, and he was transformed into Splinter when he touched the ooze, or when he found the turtles. So
that makes a lot more sense to me. Honestly,
that is the best. In my opinion, that is one of the best versions, because then it makes it even more personal whenever he and Shredder face off in the original cartoon, because they have great face-offs in that one, because that is Hamato Yoshi versus Orokosaki.
Right.
But that I admit, I'm going to say that is the stronger origin for Splinter in the 89, 88.
And it's a lot better than the Michael Bay films, because the Michael Bay one, Splinter just finds a book of karate in the sewers.
Hey,
I don't know if you remember that.
You know what? That's better than Mutant Mayhem watching Jackie Chan movies on TV.
That's true. That is significantly better. So I didn't know that was the comic book. The
this
cartoon
is the comic
version.
Origin.
Yeah, the cartoon version. It's the first time I've heard an explanation for them knowing karate martial arts that I'm okay with. That actually sounds good. I'm 100% on board with that.
I don't remember the 2001 origin of Splinter. I think it's more closer. I think it's the comic one. I don't remember that anymore. But the 88, 89 one is Hamato. He is Hamato Yoshi. He just got turned into a giant rat when he found.
I can see that justification. If he got in the ooze prior to being the pet rat, I can see it. But with him just being a regular rat,
no, yeah. So
even in this one, he collects the turtles before he's got the ooze. He's already got a parental instinct towards the turtles before touching the ooze.
It's a little anthropomorphization.
Yeah.
And again,
the animatronics are great in those flashbacks.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they're a little creepy though. They are a little. Creepy.
They are a little creepy.
Baby turtles are a little creepy. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's probably my biggest problem with this movie is the flashbacks. I love Splinter's narration and the character stuff that it's working towards, and the point it's serving in the plot. That's the only time in these films that I have any sort of uncanny valley problems is the justification for why they are where they're at skill-wise.
You'd have to ask Eastman and Laird. You'd have to ask people who are maybe a little more learned why they chose to make Splinter like that, and then why they changed it for the 88-89 cartoon. And again, I'm glad I can tell you that there's an acceptable origin for Splinter.
Yes, that helps a lot.
That helps because where he was a human who just turned into a rat. So I'm glad I can provide that for you.
Significantly improves the quality in my opinion.
Yeah, but overall, again, the movie has a great pacing to it because I think, as I said, they're following a roadmap that's already there. They're not redesigning the wheel. They're not.
They wait till the third one to redesign the wheel.
The third one is so horrific, in my opinion. First of all, because they changed the animatronic design of the turtles. They're god awful. They look horrible and alien. But in this one, it fits so well. First act, introduction, setting everything up. Second act, here's the crisis. Things fall apart. Third act, recovery, final battle, victory, and it really, even though this is a kids movie, it is a movie made for kids, and it ages well. But as an adult, I'd rather go read the comics. I honestly would rather go read the original comics or the second generation of the comics, the ones that I grew up reading, not the original ones where the art style was a little janky, in my opinion. But I would rather go read the comics, play the video games, stuff like that. Well, the original arcade game, that was one of the best things that came out during the original hype era, was the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game. The one that the Shredder's Revenge is based off of right now that recently came out. That was one of the most incredible things you could do. And that's one of the things that shows you in this movie. This movie is completely dated. First of all, you see the Twin Towers in New York. Yeah, there's no cell phones. There's pay phones. Yes, they're ordering Domino's pizza. They're paying that out. That's advertising, just like they advertise with Pizza Hut in the new one. Whatever, I accept that. But you see arcade games. You see big block arcade games in the Foot Hideout. You see all kinds of stuff that is totally late 80s, early 90s. And it dates it. But you know what? It reminds you how cool some of this stuff was. Again, as I said, the Turtles arcade game based on the cartoon was fantastic. It had one spot for each of the brothers, and it was an experience to walk up to it in an arcade or wherever it was. If there were kids or people around there, you put it in, you start playing, and then suddenly here comes somebody else. They join. You look over. How you going? Yeah, we're now playing together. I don't know who you are. We're playing this game together. Then another one, and soon you got 4 complete strangers kicking the crap out of the Foot, out of Bebop and Rocksteady, other mutants in the game, and you're just having a blast, and you got a pocket full of quarters, and you just keep pumping it in there because you want to keep beating it, and you're playing as your favorite turtle. Or you get there and you hope to play it, and you realize, crap, I want to play Leo. I don't like playing Donnie because he's off to the side here, and I don't like being on the side of the control panel. I like being in the middle. Of course, Leo is in the middle. Leonardo is my boy. Leo all the way, Leo for life. Because dual-wielding katanas. I think that's the first time I realized. I think that was the first time I realized I loved dual-wielding katanas as a child because Leonardo was so badass with them. Again, now here's one of my small criticisms of the movie. They have to come up with so many excuses why Leonardo hasn't ganked at least 20 people in this movie with those katanas.
Oh, nobody really dies in the movie.
Everybody, all the other 3 brothers, I mean, with the nunchucks, Mikey, he's knocking people out. Donnie, he's just knocking people out. Raph, they actually have him using the sai as the proper weapons, fighting with the hilts, blocking and defending, because they're a defensive weapon. They're not really that. But Leonardo, he's got katanas. How are people not dead all around him? That is one of the ways they got around it in the original cartoon. The foot soldiers were all robots in the original cartoon. So that's how they allowed the turtles to mass destroy everything and have Leonardo cut shit up with the katanas. And this one is how you not
Sam Rockwell.
Sam Rockwell, I know.
It's so weird to see him so young.
I know. It's just great, and you realize, damn, yeah, that's Sam Rockwell there as the what is it, the maitre d of the Foot hideout, I guess you would call him.
And I would agree with all this criticism. I think the second one is significantly better than the first one in a lot of ways. They figure a lot of things out.
They go deeper into the lore. That's why
they go deeper into the lore. The characters a little bit stronger, more unique, and even though the first April is way more look-wise good, I prefer the performance of the second one.
And she's also just as hot. I forget her name. She was in she used to be in Law and Order. She used to be have her own show, Crossing Jordan. I don't remember her name anymore. And she was smoking. I was talking about it yesterday, and someone in the chat room said, "Why are you watching this one? The Rachel in the second one's way hotter. If you're gonna be fapping off to this thing, fap off to that one." I'm like, I can't. This is the one we're watching for tonight.
We'll get to Secret of the Use because Secret of the Use is my favorite one. I love that one.
I used to watch that one way more because again, the Turtles had more of the personalities that I was used to from the cartoon in that one. They gave them more, and they gave them more to do in that one because it was more. They just had more to do. In this one, they're just kind of reacting to events in this movie. They're going with what's happening around them because a lot of it is waiting. Why we're waiting to find out what April's going to tell us. We're waiting to recover. We're waiting. They're only proactive at the very end, and that's fine because they're kids. They're kids, and that's them being kids. They lost the adult that gave them direction with Splinter, so it kind of makes sense. They're
inexperienced.
And they are inexperienced with it. This is it. This is their first mission. I mean, in the comic version, they had been going on missions long before they encountered with the Foot. One of the prequel chapters in one of the trade paperbacks I had, they were at a point where they were it was a few years younger, and they're not wearing the headbands, but they're wearing bandanas, fully covering their heads, and their weapons are all slightly different. Leo only has one katana. Raph is using, instead of Sai, he's got Tonfa instead of Sai, and Donnie's only got one nunchuck, and Donnie still has his bow. But they're way more. They were going on missions way younger in the comics, but this is their first mission, and this is their first adversity they face, and they have to. No, Legatus, that's not her name. That's not her name. I can tell you. All right, Jed, carry on for 1 second. Let me look that up. I'll tell you who it was.
Well, yeah, I can't speak to the comics at all. I've never even played any of the video games, but the upcoming Last Ronin stuff does appeal to me a little bit. I do like the concept of it. I don't know from a Turtles perspective how that sounds, but the Turtles franchise is something that is so cool to me, even from a periphery and knowledge of the franchise, and it's sad to see it so destroyed, just like all the other franchises these days, because this film, it just makes me smile. Again, I'm very much someone who likes to review things based on the quality of the script, and so my rating for this film will be lower than people expect because I don't think the script's all that amazing. It's actually pretty shallow and thin, but I can't help but smile through every single second of it. I'm just enjoying myself.
I apologize, Legatus. I was wrong. It was I confused Jill Hennessy with whoever that was in Secret of the Use. Sorry, I was wrong. I thought it was Jill Hennessy, not whoever that was. I apologize, Legatus. You were correct. Judith Hoag did reprise April in the third one for like the 5 minutes she's in it. So as Casey,
so weird.
And Casey also returns for like 5 minutes in the third one.
Casey, I struggle with Casey a little bit in this first film as well. Just his motivations. Like once they get to the farm, I love everything they do with him. His interactions with April and the other turtles and Donatello, love all that. And Raph when he's first introduced, the Casey Raph fight. But I don't think
that's comic stuff that they didn't go into enough. You know, again, that's why I said they were loosely covering the events of the comics. They were using it as a foundation, but they didn't spend a lot of time on it because this movie's only an hour and a half. It's not super long.
It feels short. I may have missed it, but why was Casey at the antique store?
He was watching he was sitting on the roof of his apartment building, just eating and listening to the radio. And he saw Raph on a couple buildings away after he had his fight with Leo, just stressing out and
must have walked
air kicking. And he has a pair of binoculars and he sees this Raph, and therefore he's going to go investigate. And then he arrives when shit is going down, which is the comic accurate thing. Casey arrives just in the nick of time for the backup that they needed to get out of there.
The Casey stuff is so dumb, but I love it. Like the cricket back jokes, the golf jokes at the end. Like, there's no way he should have a chance against that 1 foot dude, and then he just gets a golf club and he's good to go. I love it.
I do love that moment when they arrive at the final battle. Ooh, leftovers. I do love that. I love it. And then whoops. When he turns off the trash.
If I didn't know the sequel, like if this was my first time watching it and I didn't know there were sequels with Shredder in it, I think he would have just murdered him.
Well, here's the thing. You notice you only see the helmet get crushed.
Mm-hmm.
Only the helmet gets crushed.
Because that would be too violent to show it. Luckily, we know this
but
is
Ninja, he got out of there. Ninja, he's gone.
Mm-hmm.
He got out of there.
If he would have like stopped it right at the edge, I would just have assumed, hey, he's trapping Shredder.
No, but he basically killed him. He killed him.
Casey thinks he killed him, and all the other turtles are like, "Yay, go Casey!" It's like, that's brutal murder. Like, that is crushing a dude to death.
I don't know what happened in the Return to New York arc from that phrase of the Turtles comics. I don't know how accurate that battle is. I don't know what happened. Therefore, I cannot speak, because by now I should have gone back, because it's very easy to find things these days online.
Mm-hmm.
But one of these days, I always need to go back to finish to see what happened in that comic verse of Return to New York, to challenge the Foot and to go home. One of these days I'll do it. I obviously it's not the same if Triceraton isn't there. It's definitely not the same. But I don't know how accurate Shredder's defeat is from that, because I just don't. Because when I picked, because I still kept reading those comics afterwards, but it was at random. One of my, again, unfinished, because again, I'm a kid. I wasn't always there. And there was a toy store in Red Bank, New Jersey, where I used to go, called Toy Masters. And my mom was friends with the owner. So when she would go shopping in the region, she would leave me in town. She would leave me there knowing it was safe, and he was okay with it. He had a comic section. He'd also sell video games. So we were patronizing that place all the time. He had a comic section, and that was kind of what I would do sometimes. I would peruse all the current comics. That was during the era where Jean Grey became Dark Phoenix and all that stuff. That's how I kept up with comics as a kid at first. But also there were Turtles comics. And I remember having a particular run where they were facing this mutant that was a leech. And the leech got onto Raph and sucked out a ton of his blood along with the mutagen that's in his blood. And the leech kept evolving and Raph kept devolving. And it was a really interesting storyline where Raph is just he becomes more childlike and more retarded. And it was just fascinating as they're trying to hunt down this leech who's now mutated into human form. He's wearing a trench coat and a hat, and he's avoiding them. I never saw how that ended. Of course, they probably saved Raph, but that was how hardcore the comics were compared to the 80s, 90s cartoon and what we saw, the blend we saw in this movie. But I'm not surprised that they tapped into a little bit of the hardcore nature in this movie at periods of time. Because for kids, we've seen Raph get beat to a pulp into a coma. That's a little not kid friendly, but again, right from the comics, respecting the lore. And that's why this movie stands the test of time. Because even to the first generation Turtle fans like myself, we saw everything that respected everything at the time we knew about the Turtles. And we felt at home with this. And Secret of the Ooze did the same thing. Yeah, they hammed it up a little bit. I would have preferred at the time Bebop and Rocksteady instead of Toka and Razor. I would have preferred them. But that they wanted to make their own thing in that fine. We were fine with it. It still made it fun, and they got to battle mutants, which is what we wanted to see at the time. We wanted to see the Turtles fight two other mutants, not just the Foot Clan.
Oh, the mutants scared me to death as a kid. And
really again that they evolved the animatronics even better in the second movie. We'll talk about that when we get there. But this movie was one of the best comic adaptation movies of all time, and cartoon, because it proves what we say all the time: respect the lore, and you're gonna win.
It's to that simple.
To this day,
they had the cheat code 30 years ago.
Yeah. You win when you respect the lore, because then who's going to be your biggest cheerleader? The old school fans. We're going to be, and especially today when We're all on the internet talking about this stuff. We are going to praise you. We're going to tell you how good it is. We're going to tell other people how good it is. We're not going to just brace ourselves for something being bad. We're going to respond positively if you respect it. And they've forgotten that because this movie has zero agenda in it.
No.
Nothing. It's just
impressive.
Fun. It's just a fun movie made for kids that can be enjoyed when you're an adult if you still loved it as a kid. All right. The music, this one, their theme, dun 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 dun. I had forgotten that until I heard it yesterday. I had forgotten it completely, but it's catchy. It's good. It's the turtle theme for this movie. It's fun. Sometimes the music doesn't match the scene when they're fighting a couple times, but when it gets in the antique fight, when it gets serious, then that's a good theme. When they're fighting Shredder, it's a good theme, but it's just thematic score music. It's nothing really popping out there.
Yeah, I would agree.
It's nothing. Listen, the theme from this movie doesn't hold the same cultural reference as the opening theme for the 88-89 cartoon. That thing, to this day, every one of us who grew up watching it, we can sing it word for word, beat for beat. We could sing the whole damn thing.
I don't believe you. I might need a practical demonstration.
I am not going to do that right now. No.
Oh, man.
No. I have too much self-respect. Do I look like Dermy? I have self-respect.
Hey, Ryan did it with Pokemon on FNT.
How drunk was he when he did that? Hey, bigger audience. Make a fool of yourself. No, not this. I am not going to make a fool of myself right now. Maybe if I had a chorus, I could do it. Another time, maybe. But anyway, but that it's a good soundtrack for the movie, but it doesn't have the same cultural impact as the original cartoon did. But it serves its purpose, and it doesn't. It with the exception, again, like I said, a couple of miss moment tune wise for combat. It still holds up fine. It's fine. It does the work it needs. Not much to say about the acting. What's to say? The main characters are voice acted with animatronics. We talked about how brilliant animatronic is. Judith Hogue, she's fine. Guy who plays Casey, that dude made a career of goofy characters sometimes. So
he was fun.
Yeah,
that's the word that I think of when I think of this movie is fun. Down to every single aspect of it, it's fun. It's not deep. It's not compelling, and it's not trying to be.
No,
like it's very good at being what it wants to be. And so, yes, I will rate it lower than people will probably expect.
I'm gonna give it a lower rating. You're gonna be. I think we were surprised how much I've been enjoying the conversation. It's gonna be a lower rating, but I'll give you my reasons.
Yeah,
and I think they'll be clear. I think I've already made them clear subtly. But the acting, gotta praise Shredder is just there. He's behind a mask half the time with his voice. He's not.
The acting, not a whole lot going on there.
He does more in the second one, but still, there's not a whole lot about it. The movie is about the turtles and the animatronics, and the voice acting is great. The turtles, the voice acting is brilliant. The voice acting is brilliant. They all have their personalities. They all have. You're going to tell them apart, and it's great. But the turtles, the actual stars of the movie, knock out of the park, and that's good enough because it was what we all needed back then as a kid, and what you need now to show is respect for the lore. So that said, I feel good about because we keep going. We're gonna have to go in Secret of the Use, and we haven't watched that.
Yeah, it's ultimately
it's a deeper movie. There's more to talk about in Secret of the Use than this one.
100%. I plan on picking it in the next few months to continue this on.
Excellent.
But
all right, so let's go with ratings. Jed, it was your movie this week, so rate away.
Well, I think one of the most important aspects of rating this film is the technological breakthroughs. Is the animatronics were next level, and I feel like they impacted the industry in a very, very unique way. Yes, there have been animatronics for decades, and film has been doing.
But this was something new and brilliant.
It felt so unique, and it seems like it's a very, very tight budget, and it doesn't waste a cent. And so, with that, you can't talk about this movie and the animatronics without talking about this image here that I still laugh about every day. If you could,
I got you. Yes, I noticed that.
I saw
that. You can see
it is my favorite part of the movie.
I mean, today they would have CGI'd that out.
It's brilliant, though.
Yeah, I noticed it yesterday. I'm like, wait a minute, what's that there?
And they work so hard the rest of the movie to cast him in shadow. Like, there's a few times with the close-ups, it's just black in there. I'm like, They're working really hard, but they missed it in this shot just with the angle, and I love it. I love this shot.
You think that it's what that secondary xenomorph jaws is going to go rah, at you, rah! It's going to get you. You know what? Again, we can laugh at it because it's just a mistake they didn't see, and at this point they can't edit it out in editing.
No.
It's done.
And I wouldn't want them to. I mean, I'm sure they could CGI it out for a streaming release, but
today they could do a remaster. They probably could. Maybe they have done it in a remaster. I don't know, but it makes it fun. It's good.
It absolutely does.
Good lore for the movie. All right, so
100%.
What you score in this bad boy?
So yeah, mainly because of the criticisms we've already talked about, the plot being so very, very thin. I feel like I'm stretching it, giving this a 6.
Okay. All right, I'm a little higher than you, but not by much. Again, my main criticism is that this is a kids movie. It's a kids movie.
100%.
It's clear kids movie, and you only appreciate it as an adult if you were a kid then, and if you love Turtles, and if you love original Turtles lore. As I said, it's the blending of the Turtles at their peak popularity at that time, and it worked. And I take away my other points, like you said, the story is thin. They did a good job of threading the needle between the comic and a little bit of the cartoon, but they didn't go deep enough because they didn't have to. They didn't need to, but it worked. I said the music, the acting, choreography. We didn't talk about that, but choreography spot on most of the time.
Oh yeah,
it works.
That's great.
And this and that and. Points for the animatronics. I give it a 7.5 out of 10, 7.5, because it's a kids movie. That's my main thing. It's a kids movie, and unless you're an adult now or you watched it as a kid and then can watch it now like you did, you can't walk into the Turtles with this movie. You need to. I feel it's better served if you've experienced Turtles a little bit before, because then you appreciate how good it is. But it's not a perfect movie. It's not perfect, but it's still fun. We love it. It is great, and we recommend you watch it. And I recommend you watch everything First Generation Turtles. Read those comics. Watch the 88, 89 Turtles, which is about to be live streaming on Paramount Plus, I think. They're about to be streaming that. They're about to make it available. That's or Nickelodeon, one of them. Because you're about to get to see the real cartoon that came out first, the one that the cartoon that captured the imagination of children in the late 80s, and we were obsessed with it back then. We loved it, and I had a good collection of the figures. Never had any of the vehicles, but I had a ton of the figures. It was great. We talked about it on a Mel Mondays once. Anyway, all right, we are done. Next week, it's going to be a premiere episode. We're going to be pre-recording it due to our guest. Our guest next week is Melanie Mack, and we're doing Lara Croft Tomb Raider. Gee, we're getting Melanie Mack for a Tomb Raider movie. Kind of a good idea.
See the reasoning behind that.
Yeah. But due to Melanie's schedule, we'll be recording the episode during the week. So it'll be premiering at 7 p.m. again next week, because I have a little bit of stuff I got to take care of that Saturday. But Jed and I will be here in the chat with you to enjoy it. Chat. Thank you, guys. We hope you had a good time tonight. Remember, if you're watching this now or on the Reupload, hit that like button, leave a comment, and we will see you next week. Until then, take it easy. Have a good night or day, wherever you may be.
Chevron 1, coded.
For my ally is the Force, and the powerful ally it is. Life creates it, makes it grow.
You failed your hunt. I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Cry havoc, and let's set the tongues of war.
Chevron 2 is coded.
Conan, what is best in life? Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, to hear the lamentation of your women.
It's all in the reflexes.
I'll also say that you're heavy into martial arts, Tai Chi and all that killer stuff. I suppose we have to register you as a lethal weapon.
Chevron 3 encoded.
And somebody ought to belt you in the mouth. But I won't. The hell I will.
Chevron 4 encoded.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Chevron 5 encoded.
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Chevron 6 encoded.
Now, come on, you can, little boy.
Great Scott.
Back off, man. I'm a scientist.
You shall not pass!
I thought I'd die fighting side by side with an elf.
What about side by side with a friend?
A day may come when the courage of men fails, when we forsake our friends and break all bonds of fellowship. But it is not this day.